Welcome to Global Echo, where every headline echoes across America and around the world. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most explosive political news of the year, a late-night power struggle inside Washington that even the White House couldn't control. Former President Donald Trump, facing mounting pressure and fresh controversy, has failed to stop Congress from moving forward with a full vote to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. After weeks of delays, denials, and behind-the-scenes persuasion, the motion to declassify the Epstein documents is officially going to the floor. And for Trump, this defeat could open doors he's tried to keep closed for years. For days now, the former president has been mounting what insiders describe as a frantic, last-minute campaign to convince Republican lawmakers to reverse their stance. But tonight, those efforts have fallen flat. Multiple members of his own party refuse to back down, standing firm on transparency and voting to let the truth finally see daylight. It's a stunning turn, considering Trump's team had used every bit of political muscle to stall this moment, including direct calls from top aides, urgent meetings at the White House, and even appeals to party loyalty. But as one Republican lawmaker put it bluntly, the snowball has started rolling, and once it did, it couldn't be stopped. This all comes after Speaker Mike Johnson delayed the vote for nearly 2 months. Using a procedural loophole, the refusal to swear in newly elected Congresswoman Adelita Cava to prevent the Epstein release from reaching the floor. Now that Cava has officially been sworn in, that delay tactic has collapsed, clearing the way for the full House to finally act. Epstein survivors were reportedly present at the ceremony, emotional and determined, knowing that her single vote could change everything. It was a symbolic moment that made clear Washington is running out of excuses. But behind every headline tonight lies one question. Why did Trump push so hard to stop this? And why now? According to newly released emails obtained by the House Oversight Committee, Epstein repeatedly mentioned Trump by name, despite Trump's long-standing denials that he appeared in any Epstein records. These documents, just a fraction of the 300 gigabytes of data still being reviewed, contain conversations between Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and other high-profile figures, revealing that Epstein was aware of his connections being questioned, and that Trump's name was indeed part of the discussion. One particularly striking exchange includes Epstein writing to Maxwell, saying, "The dog that hasn't barked is Trump." Maxwell responds, "I've been thinking about that." That phrase, "the dog that hasn't barked," is now sending shockwaves across the political world. It's a cryptic acknowledgement that Trump had somehow avoided being publicly linked, despite spending significant time with Epstein. And while none of this proves wrongdoing, it raises questions about why Trump, known for loudly defending himself, stayed unusually quiet on this topic for so long. Adding to the tension, former Attorney General Pam Bondi, a longtime Trump ally, was seen leaving the White House after a closed-door meeting with FBI Director Christopher Wray and Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Boebert, notably, is one of just 4 Republicans who have signed the petition demanding the release of the Epstein files. Trump reportedly made direct calls to another, Nancy Mace, throughout the day, trying to persuade her to reconsider. But those conversations, according to congressional sources, went nowhere. The votes are now locked in, and the full release is just days away. The political stakes here couldn't be higher. For Trump, who's eyeing a return to the White House in 2028, the timing is disastrous. The House Oversight Committee's new batch of Epstein documents not only mentions his name, but also includes references to meetings, social events, and private correspondence from years before Epstein's arrest. The White House has tried to downplay it, calling the controversy another Democrat distraction. But even within Republican circles, whispers of concern are growing louder. "If there's nothing to hide," one GOP staffer said off record, "why work this hard to stop the vote?" In his response on Truth Social earlier today, Trump called the entire situation a hoax, accusing Democrats of digging up dead scandals to deflect from what he called their disastrous handling of the shutdown. But the Epstein story isn't going away, not when hundreds of pages of new evidence are now in the public domain, and thousands more could follow. The key difference tonight is that the vote to release everything every name, every email, every flight log, is finally happening. And for the first time, both parties will have to go on record about whether they believe in transparency or protection. Meanwhile, political analysts say this moment could reshape public trust in Washington. Transparency advocates argue that releasing the Epstein files is about far more than one man. It's about accountability and power. The notion that certain people might have been shielded because of their political influence is fueling outrage across the country. Survivors groups are already mobilizing, planning a massive rally outside Capitol Hill the night before the vote. For them, this isn't just political theater. It's about justice delayed and justice finally approaching. The White House has been scrambling to contain the fallout. Sources say Trump's inner circle is deeply worried about what else could surface once the full Epstein archive becomes public. Attorney General Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche reportedly told allies that there are sensitive materials that could be misinterpreted or weaponized if released without context. That phrase, misinterpreted or weaponized, is being viewed by critics as code for damaging. And after years of denial, the fact that Trump's name explicitly appears in the Epstein correspondence is enough to ignite new speculation and new investigations. As the investigation deepens, the mood in Washington has shifted from quiet concern to full-blown political anxiety. Lawmakers who once viewed the Epstein files as a distant issue are now treating them as a national test of credibility. Several Republican members have quietly told reporters that they're done covering for people and that the truth has to come out. Even some of Trump's closest allies are starting to distance themselves publicly, emphasizing that transparency is not negotiable. The sudden moral shift on Capitol Hill is striking. And for a former president who thrives on control, it's a nightmare scenario unfolding in real time, adding more tension to the mix. Tonight's revelations are just the beginning. The House Oversight Committee confirmed that the emails mentioning Trump are part of a much larger collection of Epstein's digital archives, including chat logs, calendar invites, and contact lists that span over 2 decades. Investigators say the files contain multiple layers of information about powerful figures from politics, business, and entertainment. The material has been sealed for years, reportedly due to national security implications, but with bipartisan support now growing for a full release, the countdown has begun. The public wants answers, and this time, Congress might actually deliver. What's particularly unsettling for the Trump camp is that these documents don't just link him to Epstein socially, they show he was discussed directly in private exchanges. In one email chain from 2011, Epstein wrote that Trump had spent hours at his house with another unnamed guest, referring cryptically to a dog that hasn't barked. Ghislaine Maxwell's reply, "I've been thinking about that," seems almost casual, yet chilling in hindsight. For years, that conversation sat unnoticed in Epstein's files, buried under layers of redacted pages. Now it's front-page news, and the phrase itself has become a symbol of silence and secrets in high places. At the same time, legal experts are quick to note that there's still no evidence Trump committed any crimes in connection with Epstein. What makes this story so combustible isn't direct guilt. It's the perception of evasion. The constant denials, the last-minute attempts to suppress evidence, the refusal to acknowledge emails that literally bear his name. All of it creates an image of someone running from shadows. And in politics, perception can be as powerful as proof. Every new document that surfaces chips away at the wall of denial that's been built over the years. Meanwhile, the White House's response has been both defensive and chaotic. One spokesperson tried to spin the situation by saying the administration was briefing Congress to ensure context. But sources familiar with those briefings say they were anything but routine. The meetings reportedly involved senior officials, including the FBI director, Attorney General Bondi, and top Justice Department advisors, pressuring members like Lauren Boebert to withdraw their support for the release motion. That kind of intervention is highly unusual, especially given the subject matter. Transparency advocates are already questioning whether such actions violate the principle of congressional independence. What's fascinating here is how much this has divided Republicans. On one hand, you have establishment figures aligning quietly with Trump, hoping the controversy fades. On the other, there's a growing faction, younger, more populist lawmakers, who are breaking ranks, insisting that no one, not even a former president, should be shielded from accountability. It's a rare reversal of loyalty that underscores just how politically radioactive the Epstein issue has become. People are scared, one GOP staffer admitted. They don't know what's in those files. Nobody does. And while all this unfolds in the halls of power, outside Washington, the American public is watching with disbelief. Online, hashtags like our Epstein vote, I release the files, and Trump in the emails are trending nationwide. TikTok and X are flooded with theories, outrage, and calls for justice. News clips of the dog that hasn't barked quote have gone viral, racking up millions of views within hours. For many Americans, this isn't just another political scandal, it's a moral reckoning. And Global Echo viewers are asking the same question we are tonight. Why fight transparency if there's nothing to hide? Tonight's developments also carry global implications. Epstein's network extended across international borders, from New York to London to the Caribbean, involving figures from royal families, business empires, and intelligence circles. The newly unsealed documents include references to foreign meetings, coded travel notes, and mysterious financial transactions. And now that Trump's name is part of the conversation, foreign media outlets are picking up the story, framing it as yet another test of American transparency in the post-Trump era. The ripple effect could be massive, both politically and diplomatically. Still, amid all the noise and speculation, one truth stands out. This fight is no longer about partisanship. It's about power versus accountability. Whether Democrat or Republican, those who voted to release the Epstein files are signaling that the era of secrecy might finally be ending. For years, the question has lingered: who was protected and why? Now, with the House vote scheduled and the public demanding answers, that question may finally get its day in the light. The battle lines are drawn, and for Donald Trump, this is a storm he can no longer control. As night falls over Washington, the sense of anticipation is electric. Congressional offices are still lit, aides are working overtime, and journalists are scrambling for the next leak. Everyone knows what's coming, and no one knows how deep it will go. The House vote is more than just a procedural motion. It's a reckoning years in the making, and in that reckoning lies the uncomfortable truth that even the most powerful figures are not immune to the consequences of their past associations. By morning, the narrative had already shifted. Cable networks began looping footage of Trump at Mar-a-Lago, pacing and on the phone, reportedly reaching out to allies in Congress. Sources close to the situation say he's furious and feels betrayed by Republicans who refuse to block the release. Some aides have described his mood as volcanic. He's blaming Speaker Johnson for not doing enough to delay the vote, and at least 2 insiders say Trump believes this moment could unravel years of carefully managed image control. For a man who has always tried to dominate the story, the realization that he no longer controls this one seems to be setting in fast. Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers are wasting no time capitalizing on the moment. Congressman James Walkinshaw, who sits on the House Oversight Committee, told reporters that the American people deserve full transparency and accused Trump of acting like someone who's afraid of what the truth might show. In his words, "If you've done nothing wrong, you don't need to panic. You just let the light in." That quote spread like wildfire on social media, quickly becoming a rallying cry for those pushing to unseal the Epstein archive. And it's not just Democrats. Some conservative commentators have echoed the same sentiment, saying the constant denials only make Trump look more suspicious. But what exactly do these new documents show? According to early analysis, the emails and internal notes from Epstein's estate reference numerous meetings with high-profile guests, coded exchanges about financial arrangements, and multiple mentions of Mar-a-Lago. Investigators have confirmed that some of the files came directly from Epstein's encrypted servers, meaning they're authentic, not hearsay. One batch even included a partial guest list from a 2002 dinner in Palm Beach, where Trump's name appears alongside several business tycoons and political figures. While the emails don't accuse anyone of a specific crime, they paint a troubling picture of proximity, and for the public, that's enough to reignite questions long thought buried. Inside the Justice Department, officials are reportedly on edge. Several career prosecutors have raised concerns about how the White House's involvement might affect the perception of neutrality. One senior DOJ attorney, speaking anonymously, said, "This is not how transparency usually works. You don't call members of Congress to stop them from voting." That single statement, quiet, measured, but powerful, underscores how uneasy many inside the system feel about what's unfolding. And it hints at a larger battle brewing, one between political loyalty and institutional integrity. Across the country, survivors of Epstein's crimes are watching this moment with mixed emotions. Some feel vindicated, others cautious. Many have waited years for their abusers' networks to face full exposure. Advocacy groups like Voices for Justice and Epstein Survivors United have issued statements praising lawmakers who voted for release and urging the Senate to follow suit. For them, this isn't about political theater or partisan games. It's about truth. It's about holding the powerful accountable, no matter how long it takes. And for the first time, they believe that might actually happen. Trump's reaction tonight has been predictably defiant. On Truth Social, he called the story fake, accused the media of recycling old lies, and claimed the Epstein issue was a Democrat hoax to distract from Biden's failures. But even among his supporters, that line seems to be losing traction. Comment sections once filled with unwavering loyalty now include phrases like, "Just release the files," and, "If he's innocent, prove it." The tide of public sentiment is shifting, not necessarily against Trump personally, but against the endless secrecy that has surrounded this entire saga. Political strategists say the coming week could reshape how both parties handle scandals going forward. If the House vote succeeds, the pressure on the Senate will be enormous. No senator, Democrat, or Republican will want to appear to be protecting predators or covering up evidence. That means the full Epstein archive, thousands of pages of files, flight manifests, and private correspondence, could be made public sooner than anyone expected. Transparency advocates are calling it the biggest document release in modern political history. And while the truth may still be complex, one thing is certain: the American public will finally have a chance to see it for themselves. Back inside Washington, the tone has shifted from political maneuvering to damage control. Advisors close to Trump are said to be reviewing statements, preparing legal talking points, and attempting to discredit the newly released material before the next drop hits. One insider called it panic mode, plain and simple. The fear isn't necessarily about what's already out. It's about what might still be hiding in the next tranche of data. The unknown in this case is more dangerous than the known. In a twist that few expected, several members of Trump's legal team have privately expressed concern that continuing to fight the release might backfire. One aide told Global Echo, "Every time we push back, it makes it look like we're hiding something. The optics are terrible." That quiet admission reflects a growing realization within the Trump orbit. The old playbook, deny, delay, deflect, may no longer work in an era when leaks and digital archives can't be buried. The information age doesn't forget, and this time it's caught up. As for the American public, patience is wearing thin. The Epstein story has haunted the nation for years, with rumors, theories, and speculation filling the void where answers should have been. The upcoming vote is seen as a turning point, a test of whether power still shields people from the truth. "This is about more than Epstein or Trump," one survivor said. "It's about whether justice in America still means something." Those words have struck a chord with millions, echoing across social media and late-night news cycles. Now, as the countdown to the vote continues, all eyes are on Capitol Hill. The hallways are buzzing with reporters, and security has been tightened around key committee offices. Staffers describe the atmosphere as tense but historic. Everyone knows that once the vote happens, there's no going back. The motion to release the Epstein files represents not just a legislative decision, but a moral one. And whatever the outcome, the world will remember how each lawmaker chose to stand. For Trump, the road ahead looks uncertain. His political influence remains strong, but his grip on the narrative has weakened. The phrase, "the dog that hasn't barked," once an obscure line in a private email, has become a haunting metaphor for his silence, his denials, and perhaps his awareness. It's the phrase that might define this chapter of his legacy. The silence that once protected him may now be the very thing that undoes him. In the coming days, as more emails and documents surface, one thing will become clear. The story of Jeffrey Epstein is far from over. The release of these files will likely expose more names, raise new questions, and ignite another wave of scrutiny. But it may also bring long overdue closure to those who've been waiting for truth. And as Global Echo continues to follow every twist and turn, we'll be here, asking the same question so many of you are asking tonight. When power and justice collide, which one wins? Tonight's developments remind us that silence has its own sound, and when it breaks, it echoes far and wide. The dog that hasn't barked has finally been heard, and its echo is shaking the corridors of power from Washington to Palm Beach. The truth, as it turns out, doesn't stay buried forever. It always finds its way back to the surface, and for those who've tried to hide it, that sound can be deafening. This is Global Echo, bringing you stories that matter, voices that question, and truths that refuse to stay silent. Stay tuned, stay aware, and as always, stay echoing. I'm your host, signing off from Washington. Until next time, good night, America.